66 million years ago, Trevor, every living thing on Earth was either something that would eat you, something that would eat you by accident, or fern. You have just arrived. The fern is not going to be enough. You drove 3 hours north on a Thursday to go camping alone. Not because you loved camping, you took the trip the way people take sick days. You needed to not be at the desk, and the desk needed to not find you. You set up camp. You made instant coffee. You woke up somewhere else. The trees are wrong before anything else registers. The conifers are enormous. The bark is patterned wrong. No oaks. No maples. Ferns taller than you. Something near the tree line that's almost a palm, the way a nightmare is almost a dream. The air feels thicker, richer, wrong in your lungs in a way you can't name yet. The shadow crossing the clearing is the length of a road. You look up. That's Quetzalcoatlus northropy, wingspan 10 to 11 meters, the largest flying animal in history. It walks on its folded wings and snatches prey off the ground with a meter-long beak, like a stork taking a frog, except the stork is the size of a light aircraft. It's looking at you with one eye, deciding. You have about 15 seconds before it decides. You're already on 9. This is the Cretaceous, Maastrichtian age, 66 million years before Thursday. Of every point in Earth's history, you've landed in the one where the things that eat other things were most perfected. You've also landed about 200,000 years before the asteroid. You're here for the final act, the encore, and the encore has no reason to accommodate you. Good news, the dinosaurs go extinct eventually. The timeline's not what you were hoping for. Now run. You ran. Good. The cliff face was there. The crack in the limestone was there. You fit through it. Barely, no dignity, but you fit. The beak came in after you. Once, twice, found the angle wrong, withdrew. You're in a cave. It's dark. Something is dripping. This is the Hell Creek Formation, future Montana, a subtropical coastal floodplain, warmer than anywhere you've lived. The cave is limestone karst. It smells like the inside of the earth. You survived your first 90 seconds entirely by being inside a hole. Technically, that's a plan. We'll work with it. You're hungry by morning. You haven't eaten since a different Thursday in a different era. You're standing in a Cretaceous forest looking at your options. The conifers have seeds, technically edible. Getting them means climbing 80 feet of resin-coated branches while something below decides if you're worth following, then prying seeds out of cones built to stay shut until a wildfire opens them. Caloric return? Negative. The ferns, you've seen fiddleheads in a grocery store. Some of these, young, are technically edible, the way wet cardboard is technically fiber. Some Mesozoic ferns also contain an enzyme that destroys vitamin B1. Eat enough, long enough, and it causes nerve damage. Chronic implies a future. That's the most optimism I've got for now. Now, the ginkgo trees. You know these. You've walked past them in city streets. Barely changed in 200 million years. The fleshy coating on the seeds smells like rancid butter. Don't eat that part. The nut inside is fine, eaten for centuries. So you eat 14 of them, because it's been 36 hours and your brain is running on starving mammal logic. Here's what 14 ginkgo nuts does. In small amounts, fine. In starving person amounts, the toxin in them causes nausea, vomiting, and in high doses, seizures. You get the first 2 for most of a day. The third passes nearby without landing. Now, the termites. Beetles are here. Ancestral cockroaches, your deepest, oldest nightmare, are also here, and I'm telling you anyway. Termites run 14% fat, 38% protein by dry weight. A colony gives you thousands per visit. They're reliable. They're here. They're the food source. You're going to eat termites. The sooner you make peace with that, the better this goes. You figured out fire. Friction technique. Dead wood. 40 minutes of effort. You got a flame. You felt good. I watched you feel good. Briefly, that was the correct emotion. You built the fire against a dead conifer for windbreak. Sensible. The kind of thing someone does who's read a camping book. Here's what you didn't know. This air is 30% oxygen, not 21. Things ignite easier, burn hotter, and spread 3 to 4 times faster than anything you've experienced. Within 60 seconds, you had a 30-foot wall of flame moving into the undergrowth at a pace your body understood was wrong before your brain caught up. You ran. The fire did not run. It had opinions about the forest and spent the next 3 days sharing them. You weren't unlucky, Trevor. You were unaware. That's fixable. You'll build every fire after this in river shallows, with rock windbreaks, nothing flammable within 4 meters. Not because I told you to, but because a conifer just made a structural argument against your choices. What's happening to your hands, Trevor? That cut on your forearm, 3 weeks old, and still hasn't healed. Your body deprioritized it to keep your organs running. It's eating itself, starting with the least essential parts. Right now, you're the least essential part. Muscle wasting, swelling in your ankles, slower thinking, gradual enough that you're the last to notice. There's an Edmontosaurus nesting colony 400 meters from your cave. Large, duck-billed, colonial nesters. You've watched it for 6 days. You know which adults leave and when. You're going to crawl into a hadrosaur nesting colony on your stomach and steal a dinosaur egg. I find this mildly entertaining. Not cruelly. The way you watch a nature documentary about a species that's endearing, not especially competent, and somehow still pulls it off. Low light hour. Good. On your elbows? Better. You moved at the only correct speed for a soft-bodied primate crawling through a colony of 4-ton herbivores who aren't hostile, but don't need to be. The egg was there. 3 of them, no adult close by. You took one. Cantaloupe-sized, hard-shelled, warm in a way that surprised you. You started backing out. The adult that came back early was 12 meters behind you when it noticed. 12 meters isn't far. It's the distance at which an Edmontosaurus vocalizes. Then every Edmontosaurus in the colony vocalized at once. Hadrosaurs had skull structures built for resonant low-frequency calls. This is a well-documented alarm system, several million years in development. It's quite good. You ran. You tripped on a root. You did not drop the egg. You went down on one knee with tons of alarmed herbivore closing the distance, protected the egg with your body, got back up, and made it out. You cooked it in a rock hollow in the river shallows. You've learned things about fire since the incident, and it shows. You ate the entire thing. For the first time in weeks, you felt like something with a future. Best meal of your life, Trevor. You'll never explain that to anyone. I think you're fine with that. The first time you saw Tyrannosaurus rex, you pressed against a tree and didn't breathe for 4 minutes. It moved away. You survived, by a riverbank drop and the animal's disinterest, which isn't a strategy, just an outcome. The second time, you watched it. Over the following weeks, you noticed where it ranged, when, what the canopy birds did 30 seconds before it showed up. You built a mental map, not safe zones, risk gradients. Where Tyrannosaurus follows the river, where Triceratops owns the ridgeline, where the forest interior means smaller threats. You're operating on movie information, Trevor, and movie information will kill you. T-Rex had vision sharper than a hawk's and a sense of smell that rivals a vulture's. Standing still doesn't make you invisible. What you're learning isn't how to disappear, it's behavioral territory and timing. Survival here means not being in the wrong place at the wrong time, which means paying close attention to an environment that has zero patience for the opposite. The storm gives you 40 seconds of warning, and you're inside before it fully arrives. You didn't decide to go inside, you just moved. You sealed the food cache. You raised your sleeping area. You didn't think about either one. Your body filed it as standard procedure after the flooding cost you 3 days last month.
You move lower, quieter now, feet placed instead of landed. You smell the air every morning before you process anything else. You know which bird calls mean nothing and which means something's moving below the canopy, automatically, the way you used to read a coworker's name on a calendar invite and just know the meeting would run long. Nobody taught you this. The environment selected for it. You came around the river bend and there was a juvenile T-Rex at 20 meters, head up. It saw you the same moment you saw it. It took one step toward you. Listen to me, Trevor. Don't run. Everything in you says run. It's been right every time until now, but this time it's wrong. You're looking at a predator built to run things down. There's no version of this where you win a foot race. You made yourself large, arms out, jacket open, holding the silhouette. I watched you figure that out in 2 seconds. The juvenile hesitated. It's never cataloged your shape before. You're not in any file it has. You moved sideways, not back. Back is the prey response, the invitation. Steady, holding eye contact, because you know the difference now. River to your left, steep bank to your right, narrowing its approach angle, moving at a constant pace until conifers stood between you and the animal, and you were downwind. Then you sat on the riverbank and shook for a long time. Not just fear. You knew what to do, not from reading it, not from remembering it. The knowing was just in you. It worked. That's a different kind of shaking. That's the kind that means something. Changed. Later that evening, following the river back, you found the fissure in the limestone, undercut by the current, its face holding something pressed by geological time into the shape of bone. You don't know what animal. You crouch and look at it for a long time. You're the only human being who has ever stood here at this moment. What you're looking at will still be in this rock 66 million years from now, when something with hands and curiosity digs it up and writes a paper about it. You're standing at the origin point of a fossil. The thought that comes isn't grief, it's recognition, something clicking into place that's been loose a long time. You drove into the wilderness on a Thursday because you couldn't face the office, the gray desk, the routine that became the shape of a life without becoming a life. That was its own kind of extinction, slow, invisible until it wasn't, and you were most of the way through it when the Cretaceous interrupted. The man who made instant coffee on a trip he didn't want would not recognize the man sitting on this riverbank eating termites without flinching. That man had a body that sat in chairs. You have a body that does things. That man had a schedule. You have a world. You build a better shelter. You improve the water system. You stay, not because you can't leave, but because for the first time in a long time, you made a real choice, with weight, with consequence. And it turns out that's what you were looking for when you got in the car on Thursday morning. You drove into that forest on Thursday because you couldn't face the office. 66 million years later, the office is a layer of sediment. The asteroid is still coming, Trevor. You're fine with that, too.